and Europe, where Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny has been reported dead by Russia's Federal Penitentiary Service. A staunch critic of President Vladimir Putin, he has been behind bars since January 2021, when he returned to Moscow after recuperating in Germany from nerve agent poisoning. World leaders are now reacting and pointing fingers at the Kremlin for his death.
Russia's prison agency says the imprisoned opposition leader has died at the age of 47. He was serving a 19-year term at the IK3 Arctic prison colony. The Federal Prison Service said in a statement that Mr. Navalny felt unwell after a walk and almost immediately lost consciousness. According to the statement, an ambulance arrived to try to resuscitate him, but he died. Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov says President Putin has been briefed on Mr. Navalny's death. Mr. Peskov says Russia's penitentiary service was carrying out all checks and he had no additional information on the matter. Leaders around the world have begun reacting to the death of the outspoken Kremlin critic. UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak described his death as terrible news, adding that Alexei Navalny demonstrated incredible courage throughout his life. Latvia's president has said Mr. Navalny had been brutally murdered by the Kremlin, offering condolences to Mr. Navalny's relatives. French Foreign Minister Stéphane Séjourné said on X that Alexei Navalny paid with his life for his resistance to a system of oppression. EU Council President Charles Michel has said the European Union holds Russia responsible for Mr. Navalny's death. This is not death, it is murder, Minister of Funds and Regional Policy of Poland, who was also Poland's ambassador to the Russian Federation.
This
is extremely sad news, extremely sad for us all who knew how much suffering Alexei Navalny went through because of his own decision. He could have stayed in the West, lived safely with his family. This is Putin's personal revenge. Putin took revenge on someone who dared to criticize him, who in Putin's opinion dared to insult him and simply murdered Navalny.
Between 2014 and 2016 said, Alexei Navalny was a lawyer, anti-corruption activist, and politician who became Russia's most prominent opposition figure. A staunch critic of President Vladimir Putin, he investigated alleged Russian state corruption and organized street protests. In 2013, he ran for mayor of Moscow, winning 27% of the vote, despite getting little or no coverage from state media. Since then, he was barred on various grounds from running for office. Mr. Navalny had been behind bars since January 2021, when he returned to Moscow after recuperating in Germany from nerve agent poisoning that he blamed on the Kremlin.
Now, for more on the death of opposition leader Alexei Navalny, Chairman Nigerians in Diaspora, Russia, Dr. Godwin is joining us virtually, and Global Affairs Analyst Boye Akinokun is also joining us from Texas, United States. Good to have both of you join us.
Thank you for having me.
Let me begin with you. All right, let me begin with you, Boye. Alexei Navalny was a leader of an anti-corruption movement in Russia and was seen as President Vladimir Putin's most vociferous critic. What's your reaction to this news?
It's really shocking hearing about Mr. Navalny's passing this morning. That's sending shockwaves all over the world, and I guess all the countries of the world are trying to confirm this news. But the news coming out, it's really shocking this morning.
All right, Dr. Ibe, you live in Russia. Navalny has a lot of supporters. We've seen them most times when he was taken to court in Russia and protest on the streets. Most times in front of the court. How are his supporters reacting to this, and what's the mood in Russia?
It's very sad. His death is very sad. May his soul rest in peace. The circumstances surrounding his death has not been confirmed. There's an investigative committee that is looking into the case. A lot of people are insinuating that it's political assassination, but I do not have enough information to make such a judgment. But in any case, I always my stance on this matter is always to allow the investigation to be complete, and I personally condemn any form of political assassination, irrespective of the political views held by the person, whether in the East or in the West, whether the person is pro-West or pro-Russia.
And Dr. Ibe, I'm staying with you. Given previous records of death and killings in Russia, and how those investigations are carried out, do you expect this particular investigation to be credible?
The thing about many crimes that occur, whether in Russia or in the West or in the US, is that they have a political undertone to it, or a propaganda value. And due to that, evidences are not released to the other side. For example, the Skripal poisoning in the UK, the evidence was not released to Russia. The Navalny alleged poisoning, the evidence was not released to the West. And a lot of these political undertones and propaganda makes it difficult to have an independent investigation in high-profile death cases. But you are kind of insinuating that there are a lot of political deaths, or mortality rate is high in Russia. I think that is false. There are a lot of people who have died, yes, who has been attributed to political assassination. That is correct. But if we take the number of deaths, for example, in Russia, the mortality rate from crime, for example, in Russia is about 7,628 cases as at 2022. That's like 4.7 in every 100,000 people. And in the US, for example, that is as high as about 21,156. That's like close to 3 times more. We talk about mortality rate, but you see,
Dr. Ibe, I wasn't insinuating on the number of political deaths. Now, those cases that have been called political deaths, I was talking about the transparency of the investigation of those particular cases.
Yeah, it's difficult to know. There are bodies that do this in the East and in the West. But if you're expecting an independent investigation of Russia investigating something that happened in the US, or the US investigating something that happened in Russia, that exactly won't happen because of the propaganda value. And it is very sad that in today's world, because of the divide between the East and the West, such kind of information is not shared freely.
Let me go to Boye. How difficult will it be to ascertain the cause of death?
It's going to be difficult, like Dr. Ibe just said. Russia will not release most of the vital information that is probably required to investigate or to do an independent investigation to the US. So we have to, at the end of the day, believe whatever is told, whatever we are told from the Russian side of things. It's going to be difficult to get to the roots of this properly.
And I'm staying with you, Boye, given that he was hospitalized for Novichok poisoning in 2020, will this further increase suspicion about whether he was targeted or not? And would it also further strain Russia's relations with the West?
I mean, it depends on what news you're listening to. His poisoning in 2020 was attributed to Russia. There was no real confirmation other than what the report that was released in Germany and saying it must have been from Russian agents. But there's no concrete evidence to show this, so we just have to believe what he said on this side and what he said on the other side. I'm sure Russia will deny culpability in this. They are saying he went for a walk, came back, and he slumped. So I don't expect to get anything too different from what we are hearing already.
And again, Dr. Ibe, same question to you. We've seen reactions coming from the West. This is likely having called, they have called it a murder. They have said he paid with his life for being brave. Do you see this also further straining Russia's relation with the West? And is that something that President Putin can afford at the moment?
Russia's relationship with the West was going to be strained in any case, whether Navalny died or not. But obviously, because of the heightened tension between the East and the West, they will latch on to this to try to maybe more sanctions. Now we're in the 12th round, maybe to be 13th round, hoping that something will happen, which is which is by definition madness, as doing the same thing, expecting different results. But obviously, a lot of people are sad. Like I said, I condemn every death of anybody, whether political association, whether irrespective of the person's political views. But due to the propaganda value, no side is going to get to the bottom of it, as also my colleague Boye has said. And concerning his support in Russia, look, there's no one on the street talking about it, you know. I'll just tell you the truth. When I was told to inform to come on air about the death of Navalny, it was the first time I was hearing about it, honestly. I said, well, what? He's dead? And then, you know, I began to read about it and to update myself on what's going on, you see. And there are no protests anywhere. In terms of approval ratings of our president, President Putin is over 80% confirmed both in Eastern and Western publications. If it's going to affect his political campaign anyway, zero. It's not going to affect anyway. There's only going to be sanctions from the West, a lot of rhetoric latching on to the death, even though the investigation has not been completed. And if it happened in the US, it will also be the same reaction in Russia, you know, because of this political tension. But it's sad. Someone's life has been lost. And my heart goes out to his family and friends. And I hope that the investigative result comes out to be factual, honest, and I hope that justice is served.
And Boye, this is coming 3 weeks to Russia's presidential election, which will be held between 15th and 17th of March. Dr. Ibe has talked about people not protesting, but do you expect a reaction through the ballot if people are not coming out to the streets?
Well, if you have followed the Russian politics for a while, I don't expect anything to be different. It's usually a clean sweep for the incumbent president, and that is expected in the coming elections also.
Thanks to both of you, Dr. Godwin Ibe, who is the Nigerians in Diaspora chairman in Russia, and also global affairs analyst Boye Akinokun. Thank you both.
Thank you very much.